Crazy. I mean, I'll just get started. Hopefully everyone that's here is already here, and we should have some more people coming in as we go. But basically the guy that, for parents, basically the guy that your son or daughter is emulating in the backyard nowadays, right now, is probably Grant Ament. Okay. Grant had an incredible junior year last year, and I'll talk about that in a second, but was off to a flying start this year. And then, as we all know, it got cut short because of coronavirus and everything like that, and everything that's going on. And I coach at Radnor High School. Our Pennsylvania, the state of Pennsylvania, all those teams got shut down yesterday pretty much. So we're all just kind of, we kept delaying, and now it's just for real, just the way Grant, like you were, probably a month ago already, right?
It's about a month and a day. So
it's crazy. So, but what I really want to do is just kind of have a big lacrosse conversation with Grant, and get him all out there for y'all, because he's like the #1 guy right now out there. So, but Grant, going way back, in high school, he went to I don't even remember where I met you. I mean, it was probably at Haverford for sure, but I know that Peter Rohr talked about you all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And Peter Rohr was like, you got to get Grant Ament. He's got to come to Haverford. You got to get Grant Ament. Like, he's unbelievable, And then, some other people were like, oh, he's too small. He's too little. He's a little squirt, And I'm only 5'5", so being little never really bothered me at all. It's all about what you got inside, right? So in high school, Grant, was a U.S. Lacrosse All-American, right? And an Under Armour All-American. Going backwards, in 9th grade, it was probably the first time I met him. And then 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. But in 12th grade, he just blew up, right? So high school All-American, Under Armour All-American, played on the undefeated 26-0 national championship Radnor, Haverford school team, right? He was the Nike Player of the Year that year, right? And just had everything. I remember, and you can chime in whenever you want to, but I just remember the Under Armour All-American game is, in case you guys don't know, is the big game in our sport, right? And if you're one of the best players, you play in that thing, and they have waves of how it's selected, right? And I think in the first wave, Sapinski might have made the first wave, right? And I think Noah did.
Yeah, Noah and Drew both made it, that first wave.
So you got the first wave. We're coaching the team, and we have 2 guys on the team, and then by the middle of the season, they have second wave, and by that time, Grant is just you're gonna have to, I don't know. Grant is just amassing all these points. It just points all over the place. We're undefeated, whatever our record was, and it comes the second wave, and he's not in the second wave, So I started to, call Ty Zanders and contact Ty Zanders, who made the team. And I was just like, if you guys blow this with Grant, if you don't have him on the Under Armour All-American team, you shouldn't have a team. You shouldn't do it. You shouldn't have it. Because he's having this spectacular year, and everything was all good. And I think I remember telling you that, I basically was like, Ty, I'm going to jack you up if this doesn't go down.
Yeah, you did tell me that you threatened him a little bit.
I had a couple threats on him, and and Grant didn't make that team because of that, but he was going to make it probably anyway. But I just remember, guys set goals for themselves, and that's a goal that Grant had, and I think, he was kind of playing, and then, that announcement came out that he made the team, and it was just like, now we can just concentrate on winning the games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, he has this incredible senior year, right? And goes to Penn State. You know, you get most of y'all will know Grant from Penn State, you know, and all his great things there. But I just remember, I don't know if I watched the game or I had access to your first game. It was against Robert Morris, right? And it was, I think it was indoors, right?
It was in Holuba Hall.
I was either watching it or I saw the box score for it, you know, and he had 2 goals and 5 assists in his first college game. So sometimes, you know, we're really excited when, you know, one of the players that you coach gets in the game. Like, man, I saw the guy in the game. He went in the game in the second half, or, you know, someone's getting blown out or something like that. But, you know, it was just awesome to have that going on. So you get to, you know, you get to Penn State, and like, people don't know, but they do know, you had so many family ties, you know. So can you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm in my room right now, if I take you guys around my room, Penn State stuff everywhere. Both of my parents graduated from Penn State, and at the time, my brothers were actually at the school. My brothers did not go to Haverford; they went to CB East, which is the public school by me. And but you know, there was a possibility that we were going to be able to overlap 1 year, which I think was a really unique circumstance for us. You know, me being on campus with them. And yeah, I mean, it was a combination of everything. You know, I'm a Penn State guy through and through. I bleed blue and white, you know, in every aspect of my life. And, you know, once Coach Tambroni laid out the offer, you know, I think it was a combination of both, you know, the school. I loved the school, but also it was Coach Tambroni, and laying out, you know, he had a similar, you know, mentality to both you, Coach Loving, and Coach Nostrand, and just kind of, you know, put your nose down and go to work type mentality. And, you know, I really admired the way that he did that, and the way that he spoke to me about, you know, where he sees the program heading. And then at the end of the day, you know, I wanted to, you know, make an impact on a place where, you know, Penn State lacrosse wasn't necessarily a thing. And, you know, there were definitely guys that were successful there, but the program itself hadn't really taken off. You know, I had buddies, you know, Drew Supinski, you know, going to Hopkins, you know, guys going to Penn, guys going, you know, everywhere, Virginia. And, you know, everybody would always ask me, you know, why are you going to Penn State? Why are you going to Penn State? And it was because I wanted to make a difference in a program and kind of start something new, as opposed to, you know, going to a storied program like the Johns Hopkins, the Marylands, the Virginias, the Dukes, all those types of programs. And I really did enjoy my time there. And, you know, I definitely wouldn't have been in that position without you, Coach, obviously. And you know, that Haverford experience, just because, you know, the coaching and just the way of life, specifically, you know, on my Mesa team when I was growing up and at Haverford, it was just like, you know, this is what we do. We hit the wall for an hour before school every day. That's what we do. And, you know, I kind of hopped right in there, and I just loved that grind. And I think Penn State offered a similar thing for me to be able to continue on my career there.
Well, one of the cool things, you know, is you had all those family ties, and I think there was a thing maybe in like your 6th grade yearbook. You're like, I'm going to go to Penn State for lacrosse.
Yeah, there was that. I said, play at Penn State and then hopefully go pro. And, you know, hopefully the draft just got postponed a little bit, but hopefully both of those will come true.
But for some of you younger guys out there, there's just something about, you know, I don't remember what was your backup school. You know what I mean? Like,
there wasn't one.
Right. It was almost like one of those things. If you ever have guys that, you know, are service academy guys, like, hey, what's your first choice? It's like Army. Like, what's your second choice? I don't have one. You know, there was no backup plan. Like, it was basically Penn State or bust. So, you know, when, you know, for some of you older guys, you know, when you do find a place, a college that you want to go to, you know, it's really something to be like, you're like kind of following your dreams a little bit. So, I thought it was really awesome that like that was your dream, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to your dream school and you're there.
Mm-hmm.
So that when something goes awesome, something goes really well, it's like, oh my gosh, that's unbelievable. When something goes bad, you're like, well, I'm just gonna stay positive with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna keep rolling with it. I'm at my dream school and nothing can go bad.
Yeah.
So, most people, know you for all these things from last year. Grant was the Big Ten Player of the Year, right? He was a first team All-American. I just can't believe that you broke the NCAA single season record, right? And that was held by was that Lyle Thompson, right? Or
Yeah,
no?
Lyle held it.
The single season record, and then I think when did you break that record? It was like pretty.
Yeah, we played like 3 more games after that.
Right. So it's like, he beats it, and then like there's still 3 more games to just destroy the record. So he basically has a record that, I mean, you would have to just have 9 points a game to get this record. So I don't know if anyone will ever do that. And then an NCAA tournament record of 25 points. That's unbelievable. That's up there with, Gary Gate, right? And all these guys, all these like famous guys. And Grant is our guy that's there, is up for the Tewaaraton and loses out to this dude, Pat Spencer, who, is just unbelievable also. So, but going back to, high school a little bit, we tell everybody, to play multiple sports. What are the other sports that you played in high school that helped you become the guy that you are?
Yeah, I mean, I played soccer for all 4 years at Haverford, and I actually really enjoyed my time playing soccer because I took lacrosse so seriously, and I really tell kids to take lacrosse serious. But soccer was a time for me to one, stay in shape. We obviously playing soccer, you need to stay in great shape. But 2, I didn't necessarily need to be a star player in soccer. I didn't need to be, that guy that I was on the lacrosse field. So, I remember playing with, guys like Brandon Shima, Shane and Tucker McBride, all those guys. And we just had so much fun on the soccer field. And I think it really did bring a lot of joy to me, but also, it did it in a fashion where, I was working on my footwork every single day. I probably got a little bit quicker and, was able to do that. And then at the same time, I still was able to hang out with friends. It just so happened that specifically at Haverford, the guys, the seniors on the soccer team ended up being pretty big contributors for us on the lacrosse team. So, it ended up, working out for me. But I always played soccer and lacrosse. I wrestled for a little bit in middle school. And, those crossover sports, I think it's good, for your endurance. I think it's good for your strength. I really think it's good for your mental aspect to be able to focus on something, outside of lacrosse, because, it can get to be a job at times and you never really want it to get to that point. And at the same time, like, when you're in middle school, elementary school, middle school, and high school, like you're supposed to have fun. That's my biggest thing. And that's one thing that I always preach with lacrosse is if you're not having fun, you probably shouldn't, be out there. So you always got to have fun with whatever you're doing. And specifically with soccer and lacrosse, I always had so much fun doing that. And I really think that, the soccer thing really helped clear myself mentally. But it also just helped my game in the long run because, I developed relationships with guys on the soccer field that lasted towards the lacrosse field. And, I really was able to still be competitive while staying in shape and, having some fun while doing it.
Right. For our guys, I mean, there's definitely, I think we're one of those clubs that, in the summertime, lacrosse is really important, but in the spring, lacrosse is really important. We want boys to play with their township and with Mesa. Right. But then like the fall and the wintertime, your job is to, get after it and play something different. If you ever watch Grant, dodge in the game, most of his dodges come from a stutter step move that, is really, really hard to teach kids, and it's hard to rep out. They really have to rep it out on their own. But in soccer, you kind of do that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
In soccer, you do that all the time. So, and aside from just being busy from 3 to 5 at that time every day, which is what happens in college anyway, is you're busy from
Mm-hmm.
3 to 5 every day. So, by playing other sports, in the fall, winter, and whatever, you can really, you're going to be busy from 3 to 5. So,
Yeah.
If you plan on being a college lacrosse player, you have to have that nailed down, that from 3 to 5 every day, I'm locked into doing something other than academics. And then after that, you have to be able to focus back in. I just remember, there's in the game we played against Hun, I don't know if you ever saw this, but Hun made a highlight tape out of that game,
Mm-hmm.
and basically at halftime, the one defender's like, I'm exhausted. And I just remember like Grant coming out in the third quarter, and he was like fresh.
Mm-hmm.
He was like ready to play because he was in this elite shape. So how do you stay in just that elite shape? You know what I mean? How do you, aside from playing, multiple sports and doing all the work, what should kids be doing on their own?
Mm-hmm.
Stop, not the lacrosse part, but the cardiovascular part. Like what can you?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I never played video games growing up. I never did any of that. Like my neighborhood's a pretty small neighborhood. There's maybe there's 10 houses in it, and all the kids were around the same age. So like we were always just out playing, whether it was like we were playing baseball one day. All right, let's go play baseball in the cul-de-sac. We were playing soccer one day. Awesome. Football, whatever. So I was always busy. And then as I got older, staying active and staying busy is just something that I really always enjoyed doing. I loved that process. And I was always just really hungry for more in that aspect. And so, I mean, for me, I remember in 7th grade, my coach at the time told me to get a jump rope and an agility ladder, and just to kind of continue to work on my footwork. And so I got one, and every night I would just, it wouldn't take more than 20, 30 minutes, jump rope for, 5-10 minutes, do a bunch of agility ladder stuff, and just those types of things. I think the biggest thing that kids need to understand is if you do, you don't need to go out to a field for 4 hours every day. That is an unrealistic goal. But if you do 30 minutes a day, think about how much that adds up over a year's time. You get so many hours just doing your craft. And that's just extra work. That's on top of practice. You need to work extra. So, if you think about, you practice 2 hours, 3 times a week, let's say. Okay, you practice 2 hours 3 times a week, but then you work out for 30 minutes a day. You're hitting the wall, you're doing footwork, you're doing some speed work. Okay, so you're doing, 7 days a week, you're working out for 30 minutes. Okay, well that's adding, a bunch of time to, that's adding 3.5 hours to, your regimen per week. And that really does accumulate over time. And I think for me, that's been the big distance, just staying consistent with that process. And, I talked about a little bit earlier, but like for every day, me and Chris Sabia, for anybody who's coached by Chris Sabia, him and I graduated together, and then we played at Penn State together. We joke around because, we hit the wall for an hour every day before school. And that was just like what we did. That was it. That was the standard set. And so, and then, you have different conditioning workouts. So I think the biggest thing is, you don't necessarily need to kill yourself on one day's work. It's got to be gradual, and over time you'll see consistency will really take over in big games when you need that extra boost, or you need, a little bit of extra run, or if there's a minute left and you need to beat a defender and just run around for a full minute. Those are the times when you really rely on those types of situations.
No doubt. We call it Kaizen, and just you're improving 1% every day.
Yep, every day.
Not necessarily trying to improve 50% in one day, and crushing yourself. So then the next day you're like, well, I worked so hard yesterday. Today I can take off,
Yeah, 100%, 100%. You're not going to be able to do anything in a day, but over time, I really am a firm believer. And, for me, that's what I've done. I mean, specifically stick skills wise, just talking about that. I mean, if I didn't go in the morning, and hit the wall every day, I definitely wouldn't be where I am right now. So, it takes time.
What do you think is the part of your game that you've invested the most time in, and that has really led to, led to the edge? What is it, man? What's the secret sauce? I see a lot of guys out there right now, and because you're on Instagram maybe as much as I am, is everybody has their wall ball workout, right? And then everyone has their speed ladder, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone has their cones, all that stuff. Like, how do I get the most bang for my buck almost? What is the thing? What is the area I should be spending the most time in if I'm, a 11-year-old, 12-year-old, 13-year-old high school guy, like where can I get that edge from?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of things. I always watched film when I was growing up. Like I remember I would wait, when we would play our Haverford games, like I would wait for Coach Loving and you to break the film down to post it on Huddle, and I would just like watch it right away. So any access to film that you have, I think is huge. I'm still a huge film advocate, just because I think there are so many things that you can find in it. But as for on-field play, I think the most important thing is footwork. And, you don't have to be the biggest and strongest guy to have great footwork. Like I look at myself, I'm 5'9", 170 pounds. I'm not a very big guy, and I'm not, to be honest, from a speed perspective, I'm not really the fastest either. But I focus a lot on my footwork and try to have efficiency in my footwork, more importantly, and know that, if I'm taking one step one way, I need to capitalize on that so I don't have to take a false step another way. So, understanding the footwork behind things, and watching drills for some of these guys that post their footwork drills, I would say is the most important thing, because, your stick skills, they're going to come along as time goes on if you just work on it. But if you can't put yourself in a position to shoot, score, pass, do whatever with your feet, I think it's very hard to be successful. I mean, you look at these guys that are even great shooters like Mac O'Keefe. He's probably the best shooter in college lacrosse. Mac has phenomenal footwork, and I think it's a very underrated skill. His feet are so ready to shoot by the time he catches the ball, that it makes it very, very easy for him to score the ball. So I think, understanding your feet and understanding how much your legs go into a sport where you're really using your hands a lot is really key for anybody's success.
Well, we're touching on, Mac O'Keefe a little bit. If you watch film of him, he shoots the ball underhand every single time almost. Like, what is his secret sauce? Like, how did he, if you've played anywhere, you're like, shoot it overhand, shoot it over, do this, he's open all the time, mm-hmm. right? And then when he gets it, whether he's on the left side or the right side, he keeps sticking his left hand the whole time. So you, like, as a coach playing against him, what's coming. Mm-hmm. How in the world does he just is able to get himself open, and then he gets a shot with no space, mm-hmm. and he shoots it underhand almost every time? Like, how did he develop that? I mean, I know we're trying to talk about you, but like, mm-hmm. you're a guy that holds, that has the ball, that dodges, that facilitates, right? Mm-hmm. That feeds it. And then you have a totally different guy, that's able to get open for the guy that has the ball, in his eye line, right? And then when he shoots it, I mean, it's coming out at 100 miles an hour or whatever, underhand, release is crazy, right? Like, what is his secret sauce?
Yeah, I think it really does come back to footwork. He is in a shot ready position every single time that he catches the ball. And, I remember kind of, going through stuff at Haverford and, always wondering like how do great shooters become, great at doing it. And, I think just his quick release is the biggest thing that he does well. He's constantly moving off the ball. He's a great off ball guy. And I think it really did start with, his box lacrosse background. His dad was pretty successful in the NLL for some years. And, he's definitely, used some of the box skills in his field game. But, I think it really does come down to footwork and just him always being ready to shoot at all times. Like there are some times when like he'll just go drift in the crease and I'll just flip him the ball. And, he knows if I'm flipping him the ball, there's not somebody coming to clean his clock. And, it's just for him, it's just catch, don't even look at the goal and just let it rip because his feet are always in a shot ready position. I think that's a very underrated skill that younger kids definitely could learn from.
I mean, he just, and he doesn't have a huge, I don't want to say wind up. I want to like stick path.
No, he doesn't. It's very, very smooth, very easy. He can drive the crap out of a golf ball too. So, it translates to other sports.
I mean, he has a golf swing. There's no denying it. And then for him, it's so funny because you have different people, right? You're still a low pocket, medium low pocket stick guy, right?
I got my stick right here. Oh. Yeah, I'm like a medium pocket guy.
If you go on Instagram, everyone and their grandmother has these sticks strung up, and it's all high pockets, right? It's all I'm sure like Mac O'Keefe can use all those sticks, right?
Yeah, Mac. So Mac actually, funny story. Mac broke his stick before the UMBC game in the first round of the playoffs last year, and he broke it in warmups. And he used my backup stick for the game, and I think
that's crazy.
I think he had 6 goals.
I think like TJ told me that. TJ was like he can use like anybody's stick on the team.
Yeah, he's just a pure shooter, and he can kind of do anything. But yeah, it was literally like he came to me in warmups. He's like, "Dude, can I borrow a stick?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then he just nets 6 goals in the playoffs of the NCAA tournament. It was insane.
Right, and a quick story about Grant. I just remember that when he was a senior in high school, maybe it was going back to when you were a junior, we knew that Penn State was like a Maverick team, and Grant was like, I got to get a Maverick stick. I got to string it, I got to be ready, like I got to be prepared. I'm like, well, let's just like use the stick that like you're comfortable with now. Let's not worry about, the stick for next year. But like, those are the things that separate the great players from the good players. He's always thinking about it, he's always trying to do the best he can, but he's always prepared for the future. Right. So, moving on, you're doing a lot with, it's the Attack Academy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a pretty cool app. I was taking a look at it the other day, and Grant, Ament, and Rob Pennell work on this app, and it's really super. It's for training, not just for attackmen, I don't think, but any offensive player.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to check all that out, we'll get you all the information, after this and everything like that. But is that, when you're going to keep adding to that, right?
Yeah. So we've got, I think there are like 50 plus drills right now on the app, and it's a pretty cool thing. So Rob Pennell and I, we developed a relationship. He's a guy that doesn't really need any introduction. And he came to me with this idea, and he pitched it to me. And so if you download the app, all drills are free. And then you can actually do in-app purchases to get a subscription. And if you get subscriptions, depending on the level, you can actually submit videos of you doing drills, your highlight reels, whatever it is. And, so if a kid submits a video drill for me, I'll get a notification of it on my phone, and I'll go in and I'll, break down his video and give my opinion on things that they need to work on, and then, shoot it back out to them. So it has that along with constant, different, details in the way that we dodge, the way that we do things. Tomorrow we're actually doing a video breakdown similar to this. I'm going on a Zoom and we're breaking down the Johns Hopkins game from last year. So yeah, it's a pretty cool thing. I think it's really cool the exposure that it gets to be able to, talk and interact with Rob and myself. I think about when I was younger, all that I had was like YouTube videos to kind of, watch college and pro lacrosse players. And now, there's just so much more access to it. So yeah, if you guys want to, download it, subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. I sent the information to Coach. He'll blast it out for you guys.
Yeah, we'll get all that together. And I just think it's cool. And I haven't taken a huge look around it, but like what I think we all need to do with attackmen or middies or defenders is figure out the progression of how they, what do you need to know in the sequence you need to know while you're going. It doesn't do you a whole heck of a lot of good, to learn an inside role if you can't even cradle, and
Yep.
I'm talking about little guys, younger guys. I'm always concerned about how the younger guys come through. One last thing, and then we'll get into some film and some questions in a second. But I knew Coach Tambroni from his time, like when he played at Cornell and everything like that, and he's an incredible coach. I think the one advantage you guys had over everybody, and you can see it in the amount of goals produced, and it's a huge advantage. It was a huge advantage for you. Was I think you were in the exact right offense for you and all those other dudes, and Mac, which is the big little offense, which is if you don't know going backwards, you're going to have one attack man behind the goal, and one midfielder behind the goal with a short stick on them, and everybody else, all the other four guys, are up in front of the goal. When we watch film, we'll see a little bit more. But I thought the one advantage you guys had was like that was the perfect offense for you. You got Grant Ament behind the goal who can dodge to his right. If he wants to go left, there's a pick there. If they switch on the pick, then you have a short stick on Grant, and he's going to slice and dice them, right? And then you got O'Keefe off the ball, just trying to get in there, So, and then if you take a look at UVA, which is funny, they have a very like scripted big little. So, I think I said it to you in the fall. You guys played in the fall. Like I thought you guys were going to big little each other to death, but like you guys were kind of like running things to like get other people off, or to get other people off your trail a little bit. But just talk about the big little a little bit for me.
Yeah, so the way that we kind of run it, there's two guys behind. I typically like a razor pick. A razor pick is a pick kind of down about 5 yards and then out about 10 yards out to the wing, behind the goal at X. I actually started doing them. We called them bee sting picks back when I played with Coach. I really enjoyed, doing those. And what we found was, guys above the cage were working so hard off the ball. And when they're doing that, it puts a lot of pressure on the defense, on any defense. They say that, you only play about 10% of the game, if that, with the ball in your stick. And so it's definitely, something that, is very valued for me, specifically a guy that likes the ball, to have those off-ball guys. So if that's your niche, some of those guys, didn't necessarily get in the scoring column, but we always had a saying, just do your job. Just do your job. So for some of those guys, it was to set a screen for Mac to come over the top, and they just did their role. I think it really was a perfect offense for us. I think that is we did not have that offense really before. Coach Tambroni kind of installed it around the players that he had, which I think is a pretty impressive thing to do. I see a lot of coaches these days, just go to the same offense over and over and over again and just hope for it to be the best. When really you got to have like 3 or 4 at your disposal, because you never know what is going to work on that particular day or with that particular group. But yeah, I mean, it really did work really well. And I think the biggest credit goes to, the guys off the ball, specifically above the cage, just working tirelessly and just doing their job every single game.
Right. It's funny that, some coaches and I talked to a lot of coaches and everything like that. Some guys are running the same offense but they know all the ways that you can defend it. So they can adjust in the games and then some coaches are running, a motion offense because they always run a motion offense, right? Even if you have Grant Ament and Matt O'Keefe, that you have to have a system that fits your players, right? So, can everyone see the film that's on the screen? Everyone,
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And, these are just some highlight films, but I just think they're fun. And I'll try to talk really quick and you can add whatever you want to add. But you're a right-handed player, but, I think you're one of those guys that can really, really go to both, And I think that's really hard to play. If people don't even remember, one of the first times that me and you had a really good conversation was like, you're like, Coach, I think in 2013, we didn't have a lefty that was really good. And you're like, Coach, I can do it. Like I can play left-handed.
Yep.
You were just joking with me or what, or just wanted to get on the field, but it kind of like it worked. And Grant got on the field as a left-handed attackman, even though he was a right-handed player. And he kind of like never got off the field after that. So, but I don't want to stop it too much, but if you just have a quick comment about any of the stuff.
You see that 7 cut?
Yeah. We got 7 cuts. We got against Villanova. There's you off the ball, which is strange,
Yep. That one, just saw the 5-hole. This one, TJ Malone did a great job of just getting in my defender's way. Came around with the left hand. I probably should have passed it to him, but didn't.
Well, the funny thing is when you set a pick, you don't have to actually set it. You don't have to actually – if you just get in the guy's way, that's not bad, right?
I just used the defender as a screen, and it worked pretty well.
All these highlight films are all on YouTube and everything.
Kevin bailed me out on that. That was a great handle by him, but kind of stick has eyes, right? You got to be able to throw that when you can. It made sense to throw this because my stick could wrap around the defender, and I wasn't throwing it over the defender, and Kevin was wide open. Easy finish for him.
We're also starting to call this pass the guy open.
Yep.
Make a pass.
Pass it to where he's going, not to where he is.
Pass him open, right?
That was a we want dunks, not 3-pointers. One more pass right there.
I think you could have.
I definitely could have shot that, but TJ was wide open on the backside. That was just a little skip pass.
These are all from this year. I think.
Yeah, they are.
That was Mac from way out. It helps to be when you're a great assist guy, it helps when the guy just can shoot it from 20 yards away.
Yeah, there's another one from Mac. That one I just stepped into, let it rip. But yeah, in all of these, I mean, a lot of these are assists. And you got to realize that, a lot of these guys that are, at the end of these plays find a way to just put the ball in the back of the net. It makes me look pretty easy.
But if you take a look in most of these, you're going to see Grant behind the goal, right? And that's just where you're so comfortable, I think, right? Like, but as an offensive player, I think you're comfortable everywhere, but like, that sweet spot's behind the goal, right?
Yeah, and the reason that I like playing behind the goal is because when I pass it to a guy in front of the goal, he's already facing the net, and it makes it easier for him to be able to just shoot and score.
Right. A lot of times, especially when you're dealing with high school guys, is, they drive down the wing, right? And they want to shoot that alley shot. Goalie's kind of on it the whole time, and we're always like, hey, can you make that pass to X and then have him make the play? Number one, because the goalie he's got to flip.
Yeah, the goalie has to move, and it's a tough shot for him to save. That's another pass the guy open. He was going that way. That one, I'm going to be honest, I was pulling that the other opposite pipe, but it went in. That last play, I think the Hopkins play, that one's pretty interesting because I'm not necessarily the biggest of guys, but I've found that you're able, if you can use your body a little bit on a defender while keeping your feet moving, it puts him in a very uncomfortable position. And specifically with this play, I embraced the contact and it put him in a bad position, allowing me to inside roll.
Right. I think I remember back to that Hopkins game, right? And at that time, last year, I mean, you had all these assists, right?
Yeah, so they weren't sliding.
They weren't sliding, right? So, like, you know, um, Grant is, I mean, guys just are so smart, right? So they're not sliding. So run by the guy and just dunk it yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was my beat your man, score a goal. Pretty
Right.
quick.
The announcers were just like, oh, Grant, like, we didn't know he could run by. I'm like, how did you not know he could run by? Like, he can totally run by anybody. So that's just a great one. And then just finishing in front, right?
That's a good example of Mac just being shot ready.
Just golf swing.
It was a no-looker.
This is like your world famous play. I see this all the time. And that's against Yale. That's not against,
Yep. Easy transition play, keep the play pushing. That example is just a great example of just if you rewind a little bit and you focus on Mac in that play, his feet are ready before I pass him the ball. So, I'm dodging up the hash. If you see him curl over the top, he is ready to shoot right when he catches it.
You can see his stick is way out in front, presenting the stick, right?
He gave me a target, just put it there, and he's able to put it home.
I just can't believe a dude that has like 80 goals or whatever it was is that wide open.
Yeah, I don't really know what Loyola's game plan was in this game, but I mean, it literally takes 1 second for him to shoot the ball.
And then again,
turn the corner,
no slide, run around him.
That one, Mac was just calling for the ball. I just goosed it to him.
What did you hockey to him?
Yep. That was a hockey assist. Count that one.
Well, it's also like it was whatever it takes. That's against Hop again, right?
Yep.
You sliced and diced Hop in that second game, right? Or no? Or the first game?
First one was better than second, but still good. That one we kind of started throwing by the end of the year. I found that an underhand pass, if you can do it well, it's very hard for a defender to pick it off because they're always told to have their sticks up in the passing lane. And this pass actually goes under the passing lane if you watch.
Right. He's going to have a stick up high on you, right? And the funny thing is you have a nice little step here so you can see all this.
Mm-hmm.
And your boy's coming up the hash mark, right?
Yep. Then he's his footwork, he's in a shot ready position. So Jack Trainer, good Mesa boy. Kind of similar. Sticks in the passing lane, put it under him, wrap it around. It was a good 2-man game. Dodge downhill and turn the corner. That I kind of used the defender as a screen to be able to shoot it off of him. One thing that I kind of developed as time went on was, I used picks as ways to distract a defender. And I wouldn't always use the pick. It's called rejecting it, but it really confuses the defense at times.
Right. I was trying to see if I could get one of those. I know that I was watching you guys like Yale game from 2019, that first one, and the guy, I don't know if it's Kelly or Folds, comes over to pick, and we call it buck the pick, right? So your defender takes a look over his shoulder, right, at the pick guy, and then you just run right-handed.
Mm-hmm.
He looks to his right, which is your left, which, I mean, all you need is a little bit of space, right? So we call that buck the pick, right? But reject is a good terminology for it too.
This one, I kept my shoulders nice and high and then just dropped it low. I looked like I was going to pull it back up, and then I just put it through his 5-hole. It's something I've learned with box lacrosse and with Canadians that I've played with.
I think that's it for that one. I had some people ask questions on Instagram.
Yep.
And we'll get to those as soon as I can get my Instagram up here.
Awesome.
And then we'll kind of finish up here. We had a world record number of questions. Who's your favorite defenseman to go one-on-one against? And who would you like to go up against, past or present?
Ooh, that's a very good question. I really liked playing against Chris Sabia a lot in practice. He's a guy, he obviously coaches for Mesa and plays for the Water Dogs now. But him and I would just go at it in practice. And I think, that constant, combat between the two of us really allowed both of our games to evolve. And so he's definitely one. And then for that second question, that's a really good question. I'd probably say, going against, one of the all-time greats, probably like Coach Petramala at Johns Hopkins. He's, regarded as the best defenseman to ever play. So I think it would be pretty cool to, be able to go against him in his prime, just to see how I would do. I think one of the things that, you find in once you get older and you play against great competition, you're always wondering what's next. What more else can I get out of this? And so that guy, and then a guy that maybe I'll go against this summer is Tucker Durkin. He's an unbelievable defender. Built like a linebacker and has feet as good as anybody else. So those two come to mind definitely for my 1-2 punch in that question.
The next question is a good one also. Is, I know we've talked all about like physical preparation. How do you prepare mentally for a game?
Mm-hmm.
How do you prepare mentally for a game?
Yeah. I think my mental preparation has evolved over the years. Back when I was younger, I would be very, very serious, and I would, have my headphones in, and, I'd be, doing whatever. Right now, and for the past 2 years, I like to get a really long stretch in. So I stretch for about 40 minutes before the game, before even warm up. So get a good 40-minute stretch in. And then, I don't really, like getting too hyped up or anything like that. I go about the drills, but, I find that, if you get so antsy before the game, it actually can go against what you're going for. And so for me, I really get hyped up about 2 minutes before the game when they announce the starting lineup, and then, I go out and do my thing. I find the more relaxed that I am, the better I play. And, it's the more loosey-goosey that I can be, it allows me to kind of play at a rate that, I wouldn't be if I was gripping my stick really tight.
There's another good question is, how do you manage your time with school and lacrosse? It's so easy to get distracted. How do you stay focused?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Luckily for us, we have some great resources at Penn State. But for me, my goal was always to be, something with lacrosse. My goal was always to be a good student as well as a good athlete. I was academic all Big Ten for all 5 years, and made sure that, the classroom was always the most important. So you got to have your priorities straight. Specifically at Penn State, there are a lot of distractions socially that, you can get caught up in. But, if you're truly devoted to, your sport and your academics, it really isn't that hard. It's certainly stressful at times, and you need to definitely map out your week. One thing that I like to do is, everybody has, a phone or an iPod or something. I put all my stuff in my calendar. This Zoom call, that's on my Apple Watch, and it's on my phone, ready. Mesa Zoom call that was, in my phone. So, I really like to organize my stuff ahead of time, and I tend to do that every Sunday, just plan my week ahead. So that way, it's all carved out and planned for me. All I need to do is just go through the motions.
Oh, that's awesome. A question from our boy Vince Garman, right?
Arms.
And Garms loves the string sticks, right? How often do you restring your stick or switch your stick?
So I tend to go through 2 sticks a season. I probably switch right around, that 8th game was when I would mainly switch. But I always have 3 sticks dialed in, ready to go. They're always strung the exact same way, and they're broken in. I like to hit the wall with them for, a few hours, and then, they're ready to rock and roll. I don't want to leave anything to chance when it comes to that stuff. I don't want to be like Mac and have my stick break, 30 minutes before we play in our first playoff game together.
What team? So you're gonna play in the PLL, right? The MLL, I don't know what they're doing, and the PLL definitely seems like more of like a big time thing right now for guys, and it's all going to be delayed and everything like that. But I know you've done this. I know you've looked at the teams and who they got. Like, what is the one team that you would hope would get you?
Yeah, I mean, it's 2 guys, Marcus Holman and Will Manny, on the Archers, have reached out to me a bunch. Marcus is like one of the best finishers, in lacrosse right now, and so is Will. So those 2 on the end or on the Archers, that would definitely be pretty cool. And I heard like Will mention it in the conversation that like I could possibly run a 2-man game with Tom Schreiber, which would be like the coolest thing in the world for me. He's the best player in the world, in my opinion. So, that team definitely stands out. And then I would say number 2 is definitely the Water Dogs, to play with Chris again. I think would be pretty cool. Him and I are obviously good buddies, and I think it would be a pretty cool story to be able to, pair up again and, figure it out. I think him and I have been on some teams with a lot of success, and I think we could probably bring that to that team.
No, it's awesome. When you coach guys and then they play in the PLL, it really makes it. I thought the PLL was much more watchable than MLL. I remember trying to like sit through the MLL games, and for whatever reason, I just could never do it. The PLL games, I think because what's the station that carries NBC, right?
Yeah, they do NBC Sports.
I mean, like they just have like something, some kind of secret sauce going on there with how they present the game. So I always thought the PLL was much more watchable. Even I didn't have guys that I coached in the game, but it'll be fun with all you guys, and I think we'll get started pretty soon. I guess I'm just trying to be as positive as I can. So
yeah, that's the hope. I mean, Paul has sent out things to ensure us that we are going to play some sort of season, regardless of if it's shortened or not. So I definitely do think that there will be something, whether that's in June, July, or August. I don't know, and I don't think they know. But there definitely will be something, some form of PLL lacrosse on TV this year.
Awesome, man. Why don't you plug whatever you got going on, and we'll kind of finish up.
Yeah, I don't have anything. for anybody who's on this, please go download the Attack Academy app. It's in my, if you go to, I'm going to send it to Coach and he'll blast it out. But if you go to my Instagram, just at Grant Ament, it's just in my bio. It's pretty easy to download. Bunch of drills and stuff to be able to watch and learn from. And then more importantly, if you want to submit a video and, of you, practicing your split dodge, you can send it directly to me and I'll critique it for you and let you know what I'm seeing. So that way, hopefully you guys will be, the ones doing this, down the line, and the ones doing, split dodges that go viral and that kind of stuff. So I think it's a really cool thing. And if you guys want to do it, please go download it. And other than that, there's nothing really else I need to plug. I'm happy you guys are all playing Mesa. I loved playing it growing up. You guys got the best. Coach Loving and Coach Patron are definitely up there for my top coaches of all time. So you guys are in definite good hands.
Well, I found the chat thing. There's a couple questions in the chat, and the one boy says, being a defenseman, any tips for defenders defending you? Like, what bothers you as an attackman are the biggest challenges?
Definitely the defenders that have the best feet are the hardest to get by. So any footwork drills that you can do, any types of drills where you can make sure that you're a really good athlete first. I know that, at Haverford, we would, give the defenders just broken sticks and they would have to play defense without their long pole. I think, if you can develop that, I think that's one of the reasons why Chris Sabia was so good and still is so good. People don't realize that Chris switched his senior year of high school. He was a face-off midi, then a defensive midi, and then he switched his senior year of high school. And then 4 years later, he was a first-team All-American in college. So, and I think that was because he had such good footwork to start out with. I think that is the hardest thing about beating him, is to be able, I can't really get around him. So, I need to beat him in other ways off the ball and doing things like that. Guys with these flashy sticks and they throw the hard checks, I actually find those guys pretty easy to beat because, they throw all that junk when really it's not really landing anything on me except they're just trying to hurt me.
I got another question is, what is the most important ingredient to team success? Talent, camaraderie, coaching, leadership, the locker room, or the lax houses?
That's a tough thing. I think team culture is the biggest thing. There were a few things specifically in the 2019 season that Chris, myself, along with the other seniors and leaders of the team, we kind of just said, hey, this is the way that we're going. And, if you want to be on board, that's great. Otherwise, the door is right there. And, we had some tough conversations. But, if you have a group of guys where everybody's all in, I think it can be something that's really powerful in the toughest of moments. You obviously need some sort of talent and you need, some sort of, good coaching. But I think at the end of the day, it's team resiliency. And, I remember even at Haverford when we were down against Malvern 8-2 and, coach, you came into the huddle and it's just like, we're not losing this game. It's just not happening. And it's, it's that type of confidence, I think, as a group, it can be, probably the most powerful thing, as time goes on. And, the time definitely, shows everything. Specifically at Haverford, we were able to win 26 games in a row just because we just had belief in one another.
No, it's a good one. With your ability to dodge and score yourself, but also be a playmaker for your teammates, is your mentality to score every single time you dodge, or because of the great players around you, are you looking to pass first? So I guess, are you a feeder or a dodger?
So I'm a dodger to feed first. That is my mentality. But what I always do is be aware of where the net is. So if I'm not looking at the net, so say I'm running up the hash and I can't see the net and I'm looking to feed, I'm still able to shoot without necessarily having to take a peek at the goal.
I think the one thing is Grant is like, he likes to win so much that he'll do whatever it takes, and the one thing that, are you a dodge to score guy? If the defense doesn't slide, yeah, he's a dodge to score guy. If the defense is sliding off of him, he's a feeder guy.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
I think you need to be able to do it all. I think, the most important thing, one of the first drills that I did with Coach Tambroni was we did this like rollback drill at X. And the first thing that he said is your head always needs to be up. And, that was one of the easiest transitions I had because I was taught that when I was younger. And I was just like, all right, yeah, I know how to do this. If your head is always up when you're dodging, you're able to kind of do it all. And you have to be able to have that arsenal because, you never know when teams aren't going to slide or when teams are going to slide every time.
no, it's awesome. And then I think the one thing that gets lost is, you have a turnover or your opponent or your teammate has a turnover or you throw it to Mac, he's wide open, Mac shoots it in the goalie stick. Maybe you're not a dodger or a feeder, maybe you're a rider, and you gotta go and figure out a way to get that thing back, also. So, for all the young attackmen, it's not, you got to be a dodger, you got to be a shooter, you got to be a feeder, you got to be a rider, you got to be an energy guy, you got to do whatever it takes to win, and being all those things is what all these college guys are looking for, unless, you have a stroke like, Mac has, which not everybody really has. You know what I mean? So.
Yep, 100%.
But Trav's back on. Trav, you got anything else, buddy?
You got to unmute yourself.
Yeah. G, what's up?
What's up?
Hey, thanks, man. We really appreciate this. You know what I like about Grant is like when he walked around the hallways of Haverford, you would never be able to tell how good he was at lacrosse. He was just super humble, serious in the classroom. I had him in math class. He was just like one of the hardest working students that I had. And that's just one thing that I always appreciated about him. Thanks, G.
Thank you. Thank you, Coach. Yeah, it's definitely had to work a little extra in the classroom. Showed up a few times early in Coach Loving's office with some math questions. So, definitely got to work hard in everything that you do.
Grant, thanks for your time, brother.
Of
Awesome,
course.
man.
Later, fellas. Thank you for having me on.
He already got off.
See it. Oh, he's already